Maria Bonfanti, softball.
Hi, I'm Maria Bonfanti. I will be attending Kane University next year to study biology and hopefully become a physician assistant, and I will be continuing my softball career there also.
Next we have Leland Addison. I didn't see Leland here earlier. I don't think he made it in after we started. I did see Mr. Michael Couch come in, boys track and field.
Hi, I'm Michael Couch. I'll be on to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the fall. I plan on majoring in biomedical engineering, and I was a 4-year varsity letter winner and captain for track and field. Thank you.
Next, girls track and field, Alyssa Repsher.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Repsher. I'll be attending Monmouth University, majoring in biology, and I'll also be continuing running cross country and track and field there.
And I don't think Steve McCreary made it for boys volleyball, unless he came in afterward. Okay, so they are our spring scholar athletes for the league. And I have to mention at the bottom, for girls basketball, Olivia George, and competitive spirit, cheerleading, Casey Martiak. The four that have the asterisks next to their name, not only were our league scholar athlete, or our team scholar athletes, they were selected for the league, so they beat out 17 other student athletes for that award. And that's incredible for us to have 2 in the winter and 2 in the spring. So congratulations to them and their parents and the teachers. Greg Hesney and Lane Lawrence attend that luncheon, along with Mr. Geiger sometimes and some of the others, to recognize those student athletes. And they have a nice little ceremony up in Bangor at Stroudsmore with all the other scholar athletes and their parents. Okay, spring athletic season, 18 teams. I'm not going to read all the numbers to you there, but I have the numbers of how many are on each team and the totals. Okay, next slide. And at the bottom, we had 505 athletes actually stay on the teams throughout the season. That was down about 50 total, believe it or not, throughout last year. And the spring athletes cut or left the team was very close to last year's figures also. Then we'll get into some of the team highlights. The varsity baseball team, record stands there for them, JV and freshmen, overall record, and the baseball highlight this year, they made the District 11 playoffs. Boys lacrosse, their records listed there. They also made the EPC and District 11 playoffs, and the JV record after that. Girls lacrosse, probably the best season we've ever had in Easton, 15-4 overall. I believe 3 of them were unfortunately to Parkland. They were the EPC division champions, second place in our league. District 11, they also were second place, and they did advance to the PIAA playoffs for the very first time, and their record is listed there. Okay, softball, record is listed there also, EPC and District 11 playoffs, and then JV middle school record. They had one incredible season, probably not picked to make it as far as they did. Lost in extra innings to an undefeated Parkland team, which was a crazy game in extra innings. And I think if they would have beat them, that would have been one of the major stories in this year in upsets, because Parkland at that point, I said, was undefeated, roughly 20-0, 21-0, and I thought they were untouchable, and we almost had them. So congratulations to them. Boys tennis, their record is listed there. Boys track and field, EPC, first place in the league meet. And then they had numerous athletes qualify for the EPC and District 11 meet, and we sent 6 boys to the PIAA meet. And in the varsity girls, their record is listed there, and again, numerous were sent to the league, District 11, and then 4 to the state meet. Boys volleyball, 10-10, made the District 11 playoffs for the first time in a few years, and then their junior varsity and middle school record listed down below. And I do this occasionally, not that winning is everything, but we like to be competitive, and that's why we play athletics, and we keep score, and we keep records. Last year, roughly a 70% winning percentage. This year, we're down to 62%. And if you remember last year, we had a number of championship teams, called a rebuilding year, some young teams and so on. That happens, unfortunately, in high school sports, but I think our kids did well, and we got some great student athletes out of the group this year, as you've seen this evening with the scholar athletes. Fall awards, I had those listed before. Winter trophies were listed, and in the spring I did miss one, and again, that was the girls across. They were their division champions for the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference. Academic, that's listed there by week. And one thing I've done this year that I started is when an athlete is ineligible, I'm calling him or her to my office to have a little 5-minute meeting just to go over why they're ineligible. If they can't pass that ratio of courses, something's going wrong. Not only do they have to be pulled off of the teams, but I'm meeting with them to see if there's other issues going on, whether it has something to do with the teacher, making up work, their home life, something to find out why. Also to find out what they want to do in the future. A lot of them sit there and say, yeah, I plan on going to college. Well, if you're having a hard time passing a few majors on a weekly basis in high school, colleges aren't going to come looking for you. So at this point, I started that. It's working pretty well. We still had a couple of repeat offenders, but I'm trying to get those numbers down as low as possible by doing some intervention, if you want to call it that. St. Luke's, again, I can't say enough about what they've done for us. Andrew and Mark are the 2 trainers that they give to us. Just had physical exams again in the past Saturday for next year. They send 4 or 5 doctors every time, $20, keep it as inexpensive as possible. They send extra trainers when we have tournaments and extra events going on. Dr. Hercules comes to the school weekly to work with the staff on in-servicing them, giving them things to look out for, rehabilitation things to do with some of the injured athletes. And again, we had 2 physical therapists come and work with the baseball team just to check on their elbows and shoulders with the throwing motion and the injuries that can occur in baseball. So thank you to St. Luke's and all they're doing. Sport performance training. We're really starting to ramp that up. More and more teams are now on schedule to do that, working out in season and in the off season. And we're also starting to see lower and lower injury rates, which hopefully will also lower our insurance costs. So we're hoping that continues. James Farley, Mike Stagger, and Eric Decker are helping us. We're also assisting with the weight room, which I mentioned up there, and replacing, repairing some of the broken equipment, hopefully at a very inexpensive cost as that happens. And then they're giving our kids some of the data on where they are overall in national norms. This spring, we had 581 athletes come out and have physical exams checked. There you can see the average injury, evaluation, tape, and rehab treatments at the high school and at the middle school. The middle school is a lot lower because we have not as many teams over there in the spring as we do in the fall and the winter. And then we just did the impact testing again 2 weeks ago up in the library, and we're working on the issue of getting iPads for the students that didn't realize we still need a computer lab and things to get that done for our student athletes with that impact testing. Can you pull that up, Sue, that attachment quick? I'm almost final with the students that are continuing their college careers and attempting to play athletics. And I have that also listed up here. That will go out as a press release very shortly once I'm sure it's 100% accurate. So I believe there are about 35 athletes that are moving on to some pretty good colleges. They're committing to compete at the next level. We hope they do. One of our graduates, Corey Webb, was just on the Bloomsburg University baseball team that won the national championship with Bloomsburg or Westchester, the championship this past weekend. So that's incredible because last year he was catching for us and winning a District 11 championship. Revenue to date.
Are we back on the slides?
Yep, go back to the slides. One or two more. Okay, there's some revenue figures. We're almost done with that. We're still working on Lafayette College to get the final report and the bills from Thanksgiving Day yet. Phillipsburg was the home team. They're responsible for that. So those figures will change. And for Mr. Simonetta, we're still working through Phillipsburg and Lafayette to get that report completed before the end of the school year. But they're the figures that we have for revenue that came in for this past year. And a few teams will get reimbursed for busing and so on for those playoff games that we participated in. 16-17 school year, I've scheduled approximately 1,200 home and away events, in addition to athletic events, a lot of the other things that go on the weekends and holidays, and after school in our gyms and fields. We had roughly 805 male athletes, 641 female. That's 1,446 total, and about 154 had to be cut, unfortunately, or left the team for one reason or another. We've been keeping track of the Easton Phillipsburg wins the last 4 years, and once again, we beat them 12 wins to 7 wins, and I have the teams listed below that we won, Easton won, and the teams that Phillipsburg had win this past year. And that's a neat little thing to do against each other as rivals. Okay? Any questions on athletics for the spring or the year overall? I'd be happy to answer any of those. I have a National Football Foundation meeting in Northampton at 7:30, so I'm going to head to Northampton with the Concrete Kids. Okay, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public to be heard on athletic agenda items? Seeing none, as a summary, congratulations again to all the athletes, all of our athletes, and kudos to you, Jim, for the initiative, for the intervention. Great job. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to academics. Mrs. Price. If you can't hear me, there's a problem.
So you received my report for the K-4 update. Really, it's just a quick overview of predominantly the elementary year. And what I've highlighted there is just that it was an extremely busy year with initiatives at the elementary level. And I will tell you that the staff went from relatively overwhelmed to pretty confident in what they were doing. So we're looking forward to next year really not having too many new initiatives. There's always little things that we're modifying, adding, or tweaking, but nothing major. So we're hoping to just be able to settle into what we're doing this year and get better at that. And the end of the year was, riddled with all the typical things that we do at the end of the year: awards, assemblies, and concerts, and outside events, data, final data assessments. And I think the teachers and kids really are excited to kind of wrap up that process and looking forward to the reboot and new start for next year. So all in all, I think a pretty successful year.
Thank you. Okay, and now presentation, Mr. Geiger and Ms. Gabisi. No, Mrs. Geiger.
No, we skipped letter B.
Oh, skip letter B. Oh, sorry, Mr. Geiger again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So I'm going to continue forward before you. You have a contract or an agreement from Step by Step Learning. We are asking that you take a look at that you consider the readoption of that protocol for us. This year, we're moving into really our second and a half year of this. The first portion of time was spent with just our principal group. This year, we layered in our interventionists. Next year, the plan is to layer in kindergarten and first grade at varying intervals and degrees there. What I will tell you about Step by Step, it is a consulting firm that we've contracted with to really rethink about how we teach reading. And some of the questions that you know might beg to be asked are, didn't we do some of this before? Do we really need this? Do we need a consulting firm to be successful in doing this? And what I will tell you is, in my professional opinion, I think it is a good relationship for us to be engaged with. We did start some of these initiatives, many moons ago. Those of you who remember the name Maura Roberts, back when she was here with our district, we started some of these initiatives then, and it was a 5-year plan, and unfortunately we only ever got to about a year 1.5 to year 2 in finishing that implementation. So there are some things that some exposure has happened for our teachers, but we never followed through completely with the initiative. One of the things that we are really asking our teachers, our administrators, our elementary staff to be cognizant of is how we are teaching students to read and decode print so that we meet that target of all students reading on grade level by 3rd grade. Is this the only consulting firm that can help us get there? Probably not, but I think they are proven and have really demonstrated success across the greater Lehigh Valley and have added some focus to and intentional processes to what we are doing. So my recommendation would be that we continue with this relationship. I will tell you that I am relatively pleased with the progress that we've made this year. Our expectation really was to maintain, not lose ground, and have some slight increases where possible, because it was also in the face of brand new curriculum for both reading and math. So there was a lot on the plate trying to orchestrate all of that. As I look at our data, I would say that we've accomplished that in most of our settings or across the grade levels. In general, all of our grade levels are at a 73 plus range for students at core at the end of the year. In some places that was a jump of 20%. In some places it was much smaller, a jump of 3%, depending on the school or the grade level. But I would say we most definitely accomplished that maintain while we're learning something new, and in some scenarios really had a nice increase as well. So I will be happy to answer questions, or if you want to take time to review it, because I know you just received it yesterday, I believe, I'll be happy to answer questions the next time we're together.
And is this the last portion of the contract? Because we did one.
Rephrase that question.
So we did, this is the 3rd one that I called from, one, the first one.
Meaning, will we be doing it another year? So the answer is no, but that's based on board approval and our professional opinions as we present that to you the next year, if that's where we decide to go. In talking with our consulting firm, each grade level can be a multi-year step to do it well. So right now, we're really digging the first round into the classroom teacher. They had some touches and exposure this year, but the actual concentration at the teacher level is starting this coming year. So, that's going to be something we have to reevaluate each year as we're seeing or not seeing the progress we're hoping to see. Because it can be a 5-6 year relationship, we have to decide that.
Okay, I just meant after this window, we weren't expecting to, I think when it first came about, it was supposed to be at least 3 years. That just couldn't, if I recall correctly.
I think when we initially presented it, we had said we were looking at this relationship for at least 3 years.
Right.
And then we would evaluate that as we said moving forward. So it's not a 3 years and stop. It's a 3 years and continue to reassess.
Right. I'm just asking because as we're looking at this, $6 million in these 3 years, and that's to me a lot of money. And I just want to make sure that we're progressing the way we should.
No, those are very valid questions. They're questions that we've. And that's something that we are extremely cognizant of. The principals and I talked about that quite often. Our central office team talks about that often. Are we getting, the bang for our buck, so to speak? It's a little early to truly evaluate that. I would say that we are where we should be at this point in time. And if all of our parties follow the prescription with fidelity, then I think that we are on target to see some really nice gains for our students across our district. There's a high accountability. I apologize, I thought I could turn that off. There's a high accountability. It is taxing. It's a little bit stressful. We talk about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. We have to think how we're teaching and thinking about reading. So it's not easy, and I'm not going to pretend that it is, but I think if we stay the course and do it well with fidelity, we should see the gains that we're hoping to see.
Okay, and if you could just pass along what you do have so far.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you.
And now we'll go to your report. Steve, Mr. Geiger and Ms. Peace.
I'm excited to present to you what I think is a fabulous opportunity for our students in a web-based service called FUSFO. FUSFO is a web-based service that, as a principal, when I sat down and we met with the rep, two things came to mind as he went through and presented this, and I'll leave a lot of the other stuff up to Mr. Peachy, but two things that came to mind. Number one is it provides us a safety portion here. Unlike our students going out and putting things onto our YouTube channel where we really can't control what comments are sent back to them through YouTube, this is a web-based system that allows us to control those comments our students may ignore from something posted. So that's a big piece of it. But then there's also a piece here when we look at probably the two big areas that will utilize this, at least at the outset, will be our school newspaper and our ETV. Both of those media outlets allow our students obviously some freedoms and some abilities to publish information, but one thing about both of those is they are limited, number one, in the amount of publications we can put out and space available for everything to be published, as well as running an ETV segment like any other newscast. Obviously, we have to skim down, and some things that were created never get to see the light of day. And FUSFO allows us to take pieces that maybe do not get on our web, on our broadcast of ETV in the morning, but still have it put on our FUSFO site, which now puts a lot of that work and energy kids have put into creating a piece that may not make the cut, but then it could be put on our FUSFO web-based area so that it can still be seen. It also offers our kids an opportunity to be recognized by other high schools in the FUSFO network, and in some cases even be marked by some of those high schools in the FUSFO organization to have our stories on websites all over the nation and other schools that have this. So it kind of gives them the opportunity to be publicized and seen beyond just our high school. But Mr. Peachy was also part of this presentation, and as the advisor to our Junto, our new school newspaper, she's going to give you a little bit more information and show you a little bit more about the website.
Actually, Mr. Geiger really said all the really good parts and left all the boring stuff for me. Pretty much, and the presentation was fairly compelling. I went into it with a kind of first of all, this name, and second of all, that name. And then, Mr. Ferraro made a pretty compelling presentation about it. And he also said the word that is going to make everybody here very happy, that it's free. So, what have you got to lose? We really don't have anything to lose here. Everything that Mr. Geiger said is absolutely true. This is a place where the kids, but not only the kids who are involved in the Junto or in ETV, but any of our students who are making creative digital content. I have students who just make movies for fun, and they just throw them up on YouTube. They can now put them on FUSFO and make a digital portfolio. And that was, I think, the best part about this for me, is that at the end of the day, let's say we have kids in 9th grade who start next year to put stuff up there. When they get to be seniors, they will have a digital portfolio to hand to colleges, universities, job interviews, internships, and say, hey, look at what I made. It's also a really nice way, and Mr. Geiger touched on it, not only do they have a shot at being on the national FUSFO page, which apparently they have like this brain trust in New York who kind of combs through all the kids' work, and picks and chooses things to put on their national page. Once it's on their national page, it can be picked up by the AP. It could be picked up by CNN. It could be picked up by MSNBC. It could be picked up by Fox. Whatever the particular is interested in, whatever the kids have made. So they do have an opportunity to have incredible national exposure. So it's a possibility. I think that it would probably be the best to watch the video. It's about a 2.5-minute video, and afterward I'll try to field any questions you might have.
FUSFU is the first national high school digital network that gives high schools a way to bring all their media onto a single platform. It's thousands of high school channels on one network, where content created at one school can now be shared and viewed by high school students across the country. With no opportunity for commenting on FUSFU, high school students can now create editorial and video content without the fear of anonymous bullying. FUSFU offers schools a meaningful, peer-to-peer educational tool that is as easy to use as it is beautiful. With all your media in one place, your school will have a centralized connection to its students, parents, community, and a great tool for staying in front of alumni. Everything on your school's channel is 100% under your school's control. Students can report, post, and view content about events, news, and topics that educate, inspire, and entertain. The content that your students create is only limited by their own imaginations. Let's take a look at how easy it is. The banner, logo, and colors are all customizable to fit your school's personality. When a student uploads their content, it loads to a holding queue for a school administrator's approval before being posted onto your school channel. Imagine the benefits. Your students get real-world experience in journalism, communications, and video production, without having to worry about any form of bullying or negative messaging getting in the way of their passion to explore and create. Student content creators can easily compile their FUSFU digital portfolio for college applications, internships, and job interviews. FUSFU's state-of-the-art multi-platform technology provides an education in website analytics, advertising, and other aspects of digital media, giving your students a valuable advantage in their post-high school and college careers. All of your school posts are archived, creating a digital library of student video and editorial content that's available year after year. High schools have the opportunity, if they choose, to sell advertising on their channel to local businesses as a way of generating revenue for their schools and providing a valuable educational business experience to their students. Our FUSFU national team provides support and tutorials for schools on its network. It's our mission to make sure that your experience with FUSFU is easy, educational, and stress-free. Participating schools become part of FUSFU's national network. The FUSFU National Channel is a mix of the best video and editorial posts, curated from high school channels across the country, as well as thoughtful and age-appropriate content produced with our participating high school students at the national level. Inspire your students to grow into roles as writers and creators. Be part of the FUSFU High School Digital Network.
So I think that gave pretty much a very nice overview, very much like what we got in the meeting with Mr. Ferrara. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them. Sure. Well, that would probably be me, partly. I don't want to put myself out there. That I don't know, but I mean, ultimately, I always say that Mr. Geiger, watch out for he's the guy who's like the publisher of the newspaper. He's the big guy who is in charge of all that. So ultimately, it would be him. But I think it would be me and maybe Mrs. Sue, because I do think that ETV will really be using this more than even anybody else. That's a great opportunity. But as far as like, let's say there's kids in an art class who want to post a lot of their artwork, it'll have to go through their art teacher first, and ultimately whoever's going to hit the button. I think that's been determined.
I think essentially at the outset, it will be Junto and ETV that will use it the heaviest as we get into it. But I could see, as you said, some of the art students and maybe having somebody in the art department then take ownership over that as well. Of course, with me at the top to make sure that's over.
I mean, even the music department could make music videos for things that they do. I mean, there's a lot of creative kids in the music department. We've got kids who are writing their own music, and they can perform it and make a video and post it, and, you know, I think that's really cool. Personally.
Me too. Looking forward to the presentation this time next year. Real live stuff.
And how well we've done.
Yeah.
And I will say, I went into the meeting probably with the same feeling she had, especially based on the name. That's the one thing, the name. But other than that, again, it's a growing program. Freedom High School has already contracted with this. Nazareth High School at the time we had the meeting was very close. So we're seeing a lot of local schools getting involved as well. And, you know, they're all over the nation. They're growing.
So I guess the question is, what do they get out of it?
Well, the kids get the fact that all of their work is in one place.
Kids, I mean them.
Okay.
If it's for free.
That's the key word, it's for free now. It's for free now.
There's
No, it'll be for free forever.
Also never be to the school.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an advertising.
Advertising.
I know an Easton alumni, Tom Curley, is actually on the board of advisors for this. So I think that for us, when I heard his name, that made me think, because he was the Junto editor when he was in school. That made me think, you know, here's a connection we can make with an alum as well. You know, that would be nice.
I just think there's a lot of stuff that we can do on here. We're already doing, our kids are already doing through other outlets, and this is one that we control and we can combine it all under us.
Now, just so you know, the kids can still post whatever they post on FuzzPo. They can post it wherever they want. So it's not like they're completely immune, and we're not putting a bubble around them. But what is there cannot be commented. But if a kid takes his work and puts it on YouTube, then that's fair game for anybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think on their national level, it's probably their advertisers who do.
His explanation was that they have a backer that will keep them going for at least 2 years prior to needing the advertising to pick up it. But again, even if in 2 years nothing happens, it didn't cost us a thing.
And that's not us. We're not responsible for that. That's them. They've got to keep it going. But if they said if in 2 years it pops off, then you know we've lost nothing.
Seems very exciting.
Thank you.
So, now, public to be heard on academic agenda items. Anyone comment on academic? Seeing none? Okay, first of all, I'd just like to thank all the teachers, administrators, parents, and students for a great school year. It's going to be ending very soon. And in summary, there was a K-12 update, an update about step-by-step, and a presentation on Buso media. And that'll be put on the next agenda, I guess, for board approval for the contracts. Okay, and I guess Mr. Vanderbilt.
Okay, we're going to move on to policy.
All right, we will move on to hear our presentations on updates to our policies. Letter A, B, C, and D will be presented by Mrs. Miller in that order.
Right. I'm actually going to take all four at the same time. These are all sub-policies under the technology policy that I presented in May. So 815.1 is just further outlines the use of district-owned technology. 815.2 further outlines the use of personally owned devices. 815.3 focuses on employee use of social media and electronic communications. And then 815.4 is authoring of district website and social media. These are all new proposed policies falling under 815 and really just further outlining the requirements and the procedures that would be respective to each of those different areas. So I know we shared these out, so I just open the floor to questions.
Well, listen, when you talk on the personal way, you know, people have smartphones and everything like that. So you're going to try to manage that as well. And I mean, is it really a matter of what they're using or how they're connected?
Are you looking at 815.2?
Yes.
So this outlines both student use and staff use of personally owned devices. The student use would would really, that would be a bit more focused in on what students are permitted to do while they're in school. The staff focuses more specifically just to not connecting to our district's network.
I think that's what I'm getting at, even if the students, if they have a personal knowledge connecting to the network.
No personally owned devices are permitted to go into the network.
Okay,
Yeah.
students or personal.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct, yes.
Speedy.
And should 815.2 be adopted, we will be presenting to abolish, I believe it's 237, but that could be off, but that's the use of electronic communication devices by students in schools. So this would really just take the place of that and falls then under 815, which really is where it belongs.
In 815.1, where says each building principal shall be responsible for enforcing the requirements. Is that says in the policy?
Are you on, what page are you on?
First page.
Okay.
815.1. The second one for authority. So, how will each principal be able to handle that? Or how are we, what tools are we giving them, or what? I don't know how to ask a question, I guess. How will they be able to enforce it?
Well, they would be enforcing the requirements that are in effect with regard to any the laptops, iPads that we're giving out to students and employees. And that's something that under the code of conduct that they're currently responsible for with regard to students. And then also they are responsible for that right now with staff as well. So they're there to ensure that what students and staff are doing are appropriate as per the policy. Correct.
So I guess one of the other parts too is, as I was reading through, is when we talk about the superintendent or designee can designate someone to monitor, or, and I guess again, this is my issue, is being able to go on to others' computers without their knowledge.
And there's no right to privacy with anything.
I get that. And I don't have a problem with that, but with the issue that we've had in the past, I have concerns with that not being where we have to have a procedure of how we're going on someone's computer, regardless of whether they have privacy or not. I have concerns with that, so I just want to voice that, especially with the issue we had in the past recently. So I'm just, don't know if there's a way to put it in there, or a procedure, or what we're going to do. Hopefully not have any issues with that again.
The 815 itself does address the idea of designate and the process to be named a designate.
I think, in the past, we had this dichotomy between the fact that, these computers are not the personal property of the users, and neither is anything that's on the personal property. No expectation of any privacy whatsoever, except to the extent that they have an obligation for confidentiality for others. However, to the extent that, at least in my non-technical experience these days, it appears after you make computers or software patches that tend to be done remotely. I think we could simply, in terms of directing the IT people, to the extent that they perhaps notify those people, those users whose computers they have access to maintain. That's really.
So I guess my other question is, as far as monitoring, what are we considering monitoring? Are we considering monitoring that we're just making sure that if someone's not accessing a website which they really shouldn't be able to anyway, because it shouldn't be able to go through? What basis are we saying is monitoring? What's the boundaries?
So I think the boundary is that any individual using district-owned technology doesn't have any expectation of privacy. So at any given point,
Just as long as my question is, we're going to monitor that we're going to do something that's going to be accessing someone's computer, and there's some type of knowledge that that person has. And the reason that I'm saying that is based on the issues we've had recently in the past. So regardless of whether we're monitored, I work for a large company who does not go on your computer or access your computer. They can monitor things, but they will not access someone's computer without notifying them. And that's what I'm making sure is that we are going to be notifying someone if their computer is going to be accessed in any way. That's my concern.
I think the only problem with that, it has to be carefully, partly done, because if indeed someone is in violation of the rules, you don't want to tell a person to be invested.
I understand that for certain aspects.
And you talked about parameters and limits. I think one of the only limits I can think of that would be appropriate here would be that users of the network should not be going into, say, for example, student records or employment records unless there's an education or business reason. And that would be one reason, one limitation. In terms of monitoring the content and so forth, from the superintendent's level to determine whether or not there's a violation of use, I don't think there are other restrictions.
I guess I'll look at it this way, is if someone's in violation of something, then I would expect that the principal would go and confiscate that piece of equipment for us to be able to verify, not that we would be accessing someone's computer.
I work for PennDOT. PennDOT's policy is that there's no expectation of privacy on any PennDOT computer.
I understand that, but the situation we were in with several occurrences that have recently happened, I find I have concerns with it.
I think that was more of a people issue, actually, quite frankly. I mean,
People issue, you can say whatever, it's still
I
an issue
think
that we have,
I
and we're
think the
still.
policy should be that no expectation of privacy.
I agree. I agree. I mean, if somebody wants to monitor my computer, go ahead and monitor it. There's only district things on here. There should be nothing else on it.
The other thing that is implied in what happened in the past was the district's willingness or the district's sanctioning of the notion that you could put personal information on a district-owned computer and you could use it for your personal business. And in fact, employees were encouraged to do that. And that is absolutely no longer the case. So I believe it's safe to say that what happened in the past really is unlikely to happen again in the future because all employees now know that that there's no expectation for privacy. That we can monitor this and we'll monitor it whenever we feel we need to.
John, there's another part of the policy that talks about monitoring or managing, per se, how they use social media. I mean, is that not up to the individual, as long as they're not giving away student information?
Oh, no, it's through the network. Right? I mean, it's through the network, it's fair game.
Right, if it's through the network, I mean, but we said we're not allowing on the school network. So, which means if they do something at home and they're not on the school network,
This doesn't apply.
this does not apply.
It doesn't apply. This only applies if you're on it.
this 815.3
Yes.
speaks specifically to communication via social media with students. So that is something that we we can set an expectation that employees not utilize private social media sites to communicate with students. So really, that's what this is specific to. This doesn't say that an employee can't have a Facebook page and can't have their own personal social media that they're accessing outside of school and not on our network. But it does say that it cannot be with students.
I guess I'm not seeing that plain English version here.
Rather than just
On
accept the
page
use policy, it's
2,
almost
at the bottom of page 2.
non-privatization policy, which certainly the district has the authority to impose on its teachers.
So let me ask this question then, because we talk about Twitter, and a lot of our coaches right now go and say contact their students directly, but that's how they get information to a lot of the kids. So do they now have to get authorization?
That is all in 815.4, where it talks about what just approval needs to be in place in order for that to be sanctioned. This is in no way to be prohibitive to communicating with and work with students for the purposes of education, extracurriculars. This is in no way to be prohibitive to that, but it's to set parameters for beyond that, what the expectations are, or what the appropriateness of any contact would be.
No, I just want to make sure, because I know some of them have it out there already, so just, if they have to have authorization, they need to understand that.
No. Should this be approved, we will be sharing this out so that they can make sure that they're in compliance with the policy. But there's nothing for them that would really need to change as far as having a Twitter account or texting their student athletes when the practice is canceled, or there's nothing prohibitive in these policies for those services.
You're saying nothing prohibitive if they get permission to do that?
That's correct.
I'm going to go back to what Bob was saying about the personal use of it, and I can't remember where.
Let me just real quick ask the question, like for example, for Twitter. So if lacrosse puts out a blast on Twitter, the students are actually following that media outlet.
Right.
They're not following the person personally.
That's correct.
Right? So there's really no private communication shouldn't even be happening, because it should be just a blast
And this allows for that and sets the provisions for how that should be.
Right, so I would think if a student needs to contact a coach, they're going to do it via cell phone. They're going to find another outlet or an email that, again, could be monitored because it should be.
And this ensures that all of that is done in an appropriate manner, and also that it's permissible. We didn't want to take away anybody's ability to communicate with their students or with the general public with social media, but we need to make sure there's parameters around that, making sure that it's done safely.
So on the last, on page 2 for 815.3, the electronic communications social media, employees may not utilize private social media to communicate with students unless they are members of the employee's immediate family. So if I am personal friends with Billy's daughter, and I'm an employee, surprise lighting, so utilize private social media sites. So if I have my own Twitter account, I'm an employee of the district, again, I'm friends with Billy's, and I contact her, and she's a student of the district, but not my immediate family, we're saying that's prohibited, or am I misinformed?
No, that would be a violation, because
you're saying on our network.
No.
But we're saying in a private. So in other words, I am not allowed to
friend request, for lack of a better term, a student that's not in your immediate family on your own personal account.
And you shouldn't, because it's not personal. They should be going to the district network. So if you're not putting in coach, you're friends with the
Right now, I'm not
coaches.
saying as a coach. I'm saying if, so I have a personal friend, a very close friend, and their daughter, and I am contacting their daughter to say congratulations on whatever, but it's my private social media. And she's a student in the district. That's being prohibited.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of what ifs. I think that there's a lot of what ifs, and I feel like we should write a policy that could both protect the employee, the student, and the district with all those different variables, which is why we included because if you would extend it to friend, that could be very loosely defined. And I think this is geared toward protecting both the staff and the students, and so the staff understand that what appropriate social media communication would be with individuals who are enrolled in our schools.
But they can do it off-site, though. If they were home on their own.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No, it's not just within the district.
I think the policy needs a little rework on this and everything, because there has to be some common sense. And you start off at the very beginning very well with, because it's inherent risk and danger, the board encourages employees to use social media responsibly. I think you can talk about what some of the general parameters are, but boy, every time you want to talk to somebody, well, please sign a document that I talked to so-and-so, sign a document that because if you don't have the signed document, if you get caught otherwise, it's going to be you're in trouble, or you're ready for dismissal.
It shouldn't be happening, but we have to make sure that teachers understand that this is a new policy, even if they've done it in the past, and we're going to ask them to delete or unfriend people. Current students. Alumni is okay.
Not graduates, but it's
Current students. I have no problem with initiating that, having that happen, but we have to make sure it happens across the board. We can't have one person say, oh, how are you friends with that student? And how'd you get away with that? That's something that has to be definitely put out there.
Well, because there's something you get parental approval. In Jody's case, she's friends with his parents, and the parents would get parental approval to contact your daughter.
I think they do it on a different venue.
I guess I would have to understand that purpose, and I just don't know that I can understand that.
There is no different venue. It's wrong, but this is saying.
Well, I'm just saying, you don't have to get parental approval. If you're talking to somebody's kid, the parent, obviously, their friends, they should know about it. Like, you can go to their house and talk, have a
Let me ask you this
conversation.
question. So then if the parent, say I'm on Facebook, the parent puts something up to post about their student, and they include her in on the Facebook, her name, and I want, and so because I'm mentioning her name but it's on the parent's Facebook, is that now a different policy?
I don't believe so, no. This is communication directly with the student.
But if I put in the student's name, it's going to be directly going.
No, but you're doing it on the parent's website, the parent's page.
I think the case against schools, and I can tell you that the biggest source of getting into trouble for teachers and students, when teachers and students begin to communicate through electronic means, one-on-one, teachers develop relationships. The kid starts out and he says happy birthday, and it goes from there. It is the biggest source of liability and exposure and danger for kids in schools. And certainly all these things, just like any law, they have to be interpreted as based on the facts. The purpose is to discourage an individual expertise, so to speak, relationship and contact and communication with somebody who's supposed to be a student, who's supposed to be a professional, not a personal relationship. That's the idea.
And I totally understand that. I'm just making sure, because we put this in place, that everyone understands what it entails. And sometimes I think we go through them and we don't make sure that it's very clear.
Friends that they, sometimes their friends' daughters babysit people. Okay, well, you call them up to babysit your kid. If they're on your list, you can't do it. That doesn't make sense to me. Because it says no phone calls, private, social, including private phone calls. And it makes sense for, most cases, it doesn't make sense for students and teachers to communicate, but there are a lot of issues like the family friend that you do end up communicating with a student. It might not be your student, but it might be someone who babysits your kid or somebody who does your lawn work. Or just you're trying to say, oh yeah, I'm going to come over for dinner tonight and I'll see your parents, you and your parents' son. I just have a problem with it because there's so many different variables for that when you're talking about a community. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, with those, if there's a situation where a student is, like you said, babysitting or doing yard work, it says that texting or calling students, employees can't do that unless they obtain specific permission. So it doesn't fully prohibit that, but it does protect the general nature of appropriate professional communication with students, which is really the baseline that we're trying to establish here.
You'd have to tell your principal or superintendent, yes, this person works for me.
That's the choice of.
So, you're going to have to get it in writing. Who's going to maintain all the records in writing, so on and so forth. Because if you don't, and something arises, then it's going to be questioned, and if you say, yeah, I had permission, and somebody denies it, we've got a problem.
We can certainly take any one of these policies back and review it further, but I think I would need to understand the board's, general, what you would like me to generally focus in on, because these are, we've reviewed these at length and with the solicitor's office, so I want to make sure that we are able to come back and bring something that is palatable, but also ultimately does what is intended here in protecting the students and the staff.
This was my only issue.
John, where's the liability end on individuals? On a staff member? Where does our when do they become responsible for anything that?
Well, that's a good question. I can tell you that the strategy in litigation of this kind is brought by a parent or a student that might be harmed by something arising out of an improper relationship that might have begun on social media, is ultimately to make the school a target of that litigation. And the theory being that the school either didn't properly monitor, didn't properly train, or didn't properly supervise that individual. I mean, that's always an effort that's made when a lawsuit.
I mean, I can see where you start stating acting professionally, conducting professionally, those type of things, interaction has to be professional and everything else. And just define that a little bit, but, you know, everything that keeps popping up today, that you think you're going to sit and monitor it for, you know, thousands of individuals.
Yeah, well, I think I have a sense of what the board's concern is, and if you allow the administration and my office to just put heads together, I think that we can put a patch together of addressing the concerns that are raised here. At the same time,